Welcome to the Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb.
And Alec.
And we are talking football today. Starting out in the professional side with the NFL. Right now it is Sunday and we are, what is it? 8:45 Eastern time. We got football going on right now. Bengals Chargers. Looks to be a good game. And today there's been some good football today. Some football that is shaking up some of the races, and we saw the last undefeated team go down today in the Chiefs, and just some exciting stuff, and ready to talk about this playoff race. Alec, how are you feeling about just the NFL season in general this year? Has been just a little bit crazy, hectic, different than usual, it feels like. How are you feeling about this NFL season?
Not great. I mean, I'm just not impressed with any of the teams right now. Kansas City just been coming out with just receivers to try to fix their problem, and it's really not. Like, DeAndre Hopkins going to get injured one of these times. He always gets injured. And then, I mean, the only team that I really like is the Detroit Lions. They're the only team that I would say is playing well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've heard a lot of talk about there being some of the worst 8-2 teams out there. Like watching the Pittsburgh Steelers play football, I don't leave that game thinking, wow, that's a really good football team. I leave that game thinking, wow, how did they win by kicking 6 field goals again? And you see teams like that. You see the Vikings who play games against the Lions where it's a super tight game and barely lose, but then they lose to the to the Rams.
The Rams.
Or not the Rams. It's like, wait, is it the same team? So it's definitely it's been an intriguing year of football, to say the least. I don't know if I would say I'm unimpressed with teams. I think I'm impressed with the defensive play this year. I think it's been really interesting to see quarterbacks kind of struggle to start the season.
Well, it's showing that the NFL teams are paying these rookie quarterbacks so fast. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is not looking good. All these young quarterbacks aren't really looking good. And I think this year and this draft is actually be a good quarterback draft because these guys are accurate, and that's all you need because everybody's stopping you deep and they're making you play short. And none of these quarterbacks have been trained enough to play short. All of them want to throw a 50-yard bomb. So all of them are just not playing well. Like Jared Goff played in Sean McVay's system. It's quick pass, spot pass where the receivers have to be in a certain spot. Then he passes it to them. And it's showing. And then Mahomes is not playing good. He's not playing good at all. So it's showing that you need to be accurate. And you don't really need to be that great. I mean, it helps sometimes. Like Josh Allen's the only guy I've seen just chuck it down the field, and it works.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen definitely has been the anomaly in that area. I would say that I definitely wouldn't say that quarterback there's bad. I think right now we have some of the best quarterback play ever. As far as quarterbacks in the league, and yeah, there's guys like Trevor Lawrence who haven't panned out. But I mean, you look at the league, and it's harder than ever to look at the top 10 quarterbacks and have a consistent list because there's so much talent. And I mean, you look at Joe Burrow, who's having a career year this season, who just got T. Higgins back tonight. Justin Herbert starting to fit into that system. You look at Josh Allen, who's still Josh Allen, and just some phenomenal quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson still playing like Lamar Jackson this year. And I think even the top end of those quarterbacks are so solid that I couldn't even give you a top 10 right now and it be accurate, because I think that it's continuing to change. And I don't think I have a good scope on who that top 10 quarterback is because of how high the level of play is right now, I'd say.
Yeah. An interesting year for sure.
Yeah, for sure. An interesting year. Let's move on to this playoff races. We can start with the AFC and start with the team that just knocked off the last undefeated team in the AFC East, and which looks to be probably the most one of the most one-sided races in football, with the Buffalo Bills having a commanding lead over the Miami Dolphins and the Jets in New England, and really just a disappointing year from what looked to be a competitive division before the season.
Yeah, it's. I'm not shocked. I mean, Aaron Rodgers does his thing where he brings old people into a new system in a new place, and it didn't pan out well. New England, their quarterback looks promising right now, and I mean they already knew this season wasn't going to be a great season, so they're just playing their rookie quarterback just to play him to get better, and he is playing good. And who else is in that division? The Dolphins.
Yeah,
Tua is one hit away from calling quits, and the NFL has to kick him out of the league. I think it's like 6 concussions, and like they have to kick you out. Like they can get, I think they can get like in serious trouble or something. They don't like kick him out after 6 concussion.
yeah. I mean, I still think it's kind of shocking where Miami is to me, and the Jets. The Jets is shocking, but I think if we would have talked before the season, we would have said that we thought the Jets were a little overrated going into the year and didn't think Aaron Rodgers would quite be that good. But the Dolphins, if you look at that team, Tyreek Hill has been not just kind of atrocious. I mean, coming off one of the best seasons like in history of a wide receiver, he's looked really average.
Well, he is getting older, and I think with him getting older is more about running the right routes, and he's always done that. So now he just, I don't think he's as fast as he used to be last year. You see that with Amari Cooper. That's why the Browns traded him. He only had like 200 yards in the season. Last year he had 1,000 yards and like 9 touchdowns. So he was really good, and he fell off. We traded him to the Buffalo Bills just because he was dropping passes. He had like 3 drop passes during the Jags game, which should have been touchdowns, and it just shows people get old. It's sad to see. You kind of want them to leave before they fall off.
Yeah, I mean, with Amari Cooper, I think he's still got some left, and I think that both those guys do. I think both those guys, you could look at their quarterback situation and say, well, he didn't have Tua, but I mean, he's kind of struggled with to even be back in being back in the lineup. But I mean, Amari Cooper's looked better since he's been in Buffalo, and I think a lot of that's because his quarterback was Deshaun Watson. So I think
I
that can
mean,
be partly
yeah.
attributed to that.
I mean, honestly, I just know. I just think he's I don't think he's fast than he used to be. There's something different about him. Me watching him at the Bills and then at the Browns, just watching both of them. Like last year, his get off was insane. Like he wasn't fast, but his get off was really fast. Like beating the corner, and then the corner could always catch up to him. And he wasn't that fast, but he knew how to run the route. Now, like the corners are with him every step of the way, and that's not good for him. He's more of a separation guy. He can't beat you deep, but he can beat you with his separation off the ball. Like if the corner thinks he's going left, he goes right. He just gets open. He's not Tyreek Hill where he goes down the field and catches one. So I mean, it just really it showed this year, even with the Bills, like that putting him in very little in certain plays, like maybe third and second down.
Yeah, and I think that looking at Buffalo, I think we're looking at one of the best teams in the AFC, and I think the real challenge, in my mind, they're the biggest challenger to the Chiefs this year to take that AFC title and go to the Super Bowl. Uh,
Well, I think the Bills have finally built a young team around Josh Allen. Like they got a guy from Florida State. Wait, no, it's not the Seminoles. No, the Seminoles, right?
yeah, Shakir.
That's not, yeah, that's here. Got a Mark Cooper. They got a couple of guys who just are young, but they're just really
Yeah, the
fast.
kid
So
Dalton Kincaid, the tight end, stud.
yeah, they're just slowly building up their team, and like their defense is really good, and their offense is fantastic. Like for me, I was calling for Sean McDermott's to be fired. And I didn't think he played good last year.
Yeah.
I thought they had a good season. They put Ken Dorsey in way too long to be the coordinator. They should have fired him way before then. And they finally got it right with Joe Brady, the Carolina's old offensive coordinator. So they finally got something right.
Yeah, and I think to me, looking at Buffalo, watching them play, even tonight against the Chiefs, it comes down to just Josh Allen. And the thing is, like Josh Allen, to me, is like has been so far in his career like the Drew Brees to Patrick Mahomes is Tom Brady. Like he just sits under his shadow as this unbelievably talented star quarterback who is getting overlooked because there's a guy who's won 3 championships in the last 4 years. And watching him play tonight, it was like, dang, the Bills are good because Josh Allen is that good. And came down to like that last drive, fourth and short, game on the line. It's like we could kick a field goal and then the Chiefs could still come back and win this game. And instead they're like, no, we trust our guy. We trust our guy. We're going to give the ball to Josh Allen. And really, to me, it was funny watching it because he had a guy wide open in the flat for the first down, and Josh Allen sees like a window, and it looked like it was a harder way to get the first down, but instead he takes it and he goes all the way for a touchdown for like 30 yards, and it's like, whoa, he could have got the first down by throwing it out to his flat, but instead he like put the team on his back and said, no, we're winning this game and we're going to take over the AFC. And I think to me is a testament of how good of a player Josh Allen is really the
Well,
reason they're there.
I think it really. I think the whole Buffalo organization looked at themselves this offseason and said, okay, we need to get younger, faster, quicker because Kansas City's is not looking good. Like they're winning, but they just don't have the star power or the young people coming in. And I think they looked at themselves and they said, we cannot lose to Kansas City in the playoffs. We have to do something. And I think that was a real focus point this year for the first time. Like, we have to beat them. We want to get to the Super Bowl. We can't waste his career.
Yeah, it's good. Let's move on to the next division, the AFC North. We got your division now. Like the Browns not looking so good this year. A division that's being run
The-
right now by Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Today, Baltimore actually losing to Pittsburgh in a game that would have taken the division lead.
Well,
And then you have Cincinnati, who's just wildly underperformed behind Joe Burrow, who's played
yeah, I
phenomenal.
called it.
I
I
mean, Joe
called it.
Burrow's been absolutely phenomenal all year, just crazy numbers. And then you look at Cincinnati's record and you're like, are we sure this is the team he's playing quarterback for? Because these numbers don't quite add up. And this is pretty typical Cincinnati to underperform the first half of the season, but they've just dug themselves a hole. And this is just to me a strange AFC North.
Well, I tell people all the time, Mike Tomlin has the Mike Tomlin powers. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback. It doesn't matter who's on his team. He knows how to put a team together. It doesn't matter. He knows how to put a team together. I called it. I said Mike Tomlin's gonna do a Mike Tomlin thing. He's gonna put his team into the best position to win. It's not gonna look like Kansas City or Buffalo. He might win it 6-0. If he had to do it, he'd probably do it every time. He's looking for winners. And Cincinnati, they just have a bad coach. I've just never liked Zach Taylor. And John Harbaugh always chokes. They lost to Jameis Winston and the Browns. They upgraded their DB coach to defensive coordinator, and their secondary is like the worst secondary in football. And it showed. And like Jameis Winston had a career year, not career year, but a career game. And Tillman had a great game. It showed me that Baltimore falls in the biggest moment, and Pittsburgh's not afraid of the moment. And Cincinnati just sucks because of their head coach. I've never liked him. I've always thought when he plays against us, they can't win. They really can't win. They've only won like 8 out of the last 2. They beat us. I mean, like it's not great. I mean, their team is just no, sorry, 2-8 last time they played us, but it's just not looking great because every time they play us, he does something stupid. Like we don't have firepower, and he's trying to play conservative, run the ball, and like pass the ball because every time they do that, they start coming back. But by then, it's too late. So I'm just never been impressed. I'm not shocked that Mike Tomlin's is the number one team. The whole Steelers. I'm just not. I'm just not shocked at all. I mean, they're the best team. He's the best coach right now.
Yeah, and I do think that Baltimore still has a good chance of winning this division going into the playoffs. I think that Pittsburgh will probably make the playoffs, regardless, because that defense is just phenomenal. Um, but man, that it's definitely an intriguing division. Cleveland is obviously just not quite there yet in the race. Um, and hopefully
Yeah,
Jameis can kind of right
I
that
don't know.
ship in the next year. I kind of like Jameis at quarterback. He's crazy. He's just a little chaotic, but to me he's a major upgrade over Deshaun Watson. And Cincinnati,
I
I think,
mean, yeah.
is like just when I've seen them play and they actually play to what they can be. They're a scary team, and I don't think they'll sneak in the playoffs. But man, if I'm another team, I don't want them to, because to me, Joe Burrow can hang 400 yards on any defense on like any given day, and that's scary. And so that team scares me. But really, it's to me, it's a two-team race between Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and it really comes down to, can Lamar Jackson show up? And I think we've seen him show up in the regular season time and time again. But when it comes to playoff time, he has not been there. And today, his team let him down,
I
and
mean,
they're 2 games back now.
well, I'm just not shocked. I've really never been impressed with Baltimore. I mean, honestly, I've seen them choke a lot. For the first time, I was like, okay, it's not too bad. But this time, watching the game, it's like, what did they do when they played the Steelers? They just don't know how to beat them. And I've seen the Browns beat Baltimore, but we only have one trouble in our division who we can't beat. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Mike Tomlin knows how to play them. He doesn't change how he plays. And I just think Mike Tomlin is the best coach in the AFC North. Like, if he got fired from the Steelers, everybody wants him. He knows how to coach. I can't tell you how he wins, but he knows how to coach.
Yeah, phenomenal job he's done there, and I think I do like Baltimore to take the division eventually. But man, Pittsburgh, that coaching is just phenomenal. You can't get past Mike Tomlin. Moving on to the AFC South, which to me is interesting. We have Houston leading the helm behind CJ Stroud and that team, and right behind them, only a couple games back, is Indianapolis. And then you got two of the worst teams in football in Tennessee and Jacksonville behind them. But between this, Anthony Richardson looked good today. He did, and
It's it's frustrating. It's like, I don't know. This isn't the greatest analogy, but it's like, the Cavs. They're playing really well right now.
yep,
They're not. They're 12-0. They're winning. They're winning. Evan Mobley looks really good, but when Evan Mobley was young, I didn't think he looked good. But now, like, I felt like Anthony Richardson, like Evan Mobley. Like this year, he looks better than he was last year. But I felt like he still can grow, and I think, I don't think they're gonna win the division, but I think next year will be really good. I think he's just a developmental quarterback for the future, and I think, and ultimately Houston's gonna win it because they have the better quarterback and the better front office and the team.
yeah,
But I've just always been impressed with Anthony Richardson. He's young. He's very young. People don't understand. He's like
yeah.
20. He's a
To me,
young
I
guy.
love that team that D'Amico Ryan's has built there in Houston, and to me, they've underperformed a little bit this season, and specifically CJ Stroud. I watched them play, and it seems like they're pretty conservative with the way they play football. And to me, CJ Stroud has kind of been caged up a little bit this season, it feels like. And I do think that CJ Stroud is an elite quarterback in this NFL. But he hasn't quite looked like the quarterback we saw last season. Um, but I still think he's an unbelievable talent, and we'll see how they do. But I do like them to hold on to win that race, even though it's fun to see Anthony Richardson finally kind of move on past the whole give me a tap me out of the game coach moment, and now he's owning up and played a great game in his first game back at starter. Moving on to the
Well,
moving on to our last division of the AFC.
Go. Sorry.
We got the AFC West with uh, Kansas City leading the way, 1 loss this year. And then to me, we got a couple interesting teams here. We got the Chargers with that new coach there in Harbaugh, and we have Justin Herbert.
Shooter bro.
Herbert's starting to look like Herbert this year, and like he's getting there. He's getting his feet under him, and he's looking good. And that Kansas City team has been interesting to say the least. But the one that really intrigues me is this Denver team, and this Denver team just hung 38 points on Atlanta, like it was nothing, like it was playground football. And this kid Bo Nix looked pretty dang good. And I don't know how to feel about Denver, and I don't know how to feel about this division. And I really do think that Kansas City isn't as good as normal, even though they're 9-1. It's hard. They don't pass the eye test. They have the record, but
No, they don't do much. They just get enough to win. They're like Mike
yeah, I
Tomlin
mean,
right now. Like they just do enough to win. Like it's not like you're saying, oh man, they should be really great. It's like this is kind of bad football. How are
yeah,
they
and
winning?
it's confusing because you look at Mahomes and it doesn't look like Mahomes is playing that well, and you look at Travis Kelsey and Travis Kelsey's having one of the worst seasons of his career, and you're like, I don't know where the production's coming from, and it's definitely interesting to see a team that is 9-1, and you look at them and you're like, are we sure they're 9-1? And behind them, you look at a Chargers team
Yeah,
that's so disciplined, and they're starting to figure out how to use Justin Herbert in that offense. And I like the Chargers, and I do think that they could give I think they can give the Chiefs a run at that spot. In Denver, man, I think Denver can take a game from the Chiefs as well, which would be interesting to see.
yeah. I am. It showed me that Sean Payton knows how to coach. I I was just not impressed for the trade for Sean Payton, but this year showed me um, that he still knows how to draw up an offense in this era of football. He still knows how to coach a quarterback. That's something that you can't teach or train a coach to do. You just have it or you don't have it. And he's showing the young guy that he trusts him. He believes in him. He's rolling up plays for him. So it's just showing me that Sean Payton still um like a master class at coaching. Like nobody else can coach like him. He's like kind of in that Mike Tomlin area where you can't really teach coaching. He just knows how to do it. Like
Yeah,
I mean, it's insane to watch. It's like I was just not impressed. I was like, oh, they're gonna go, they'll be below 500, but they're showing us that they're not going below 500. They're gonna make the playoffs. There's no way they
no
don't.
way. You think the Broncos got the playoffs easy?
I, well, they're gonna make it the wild card. I don't know if they're gonna win the division, but I think they're such a good team defensively and offensively
Yeah,
right now
the last few
that
years
they're just
they've been insane.
well, yeah. It's been good. It's been fun to see
You,
the
you,
Broncos to be good. I mean, I think the Broncos fans deserve a good quarterback after Peyton Manning. It's been a while. They've been trying with a
yeah,
lot
it's
of
true.
different guys.
I think I think you'll like this stat. This is one of my favorite stats out right now. But the AFC West,
Uh,
uh, the point differential on the season for teams, you have a team that's plus 68, a team that's plus 52, and a team that's plus 49. If you were to guess, who do you think
yeah,
is
it's
which
not.
team? Which team is plus 68 on the season? Points scored. Not close.
Denver Broncos.
The Chargers are plus 68.
The
The Broncos are
Chargers.
plus 52 and the Chiefs are plus 49. I mean, this team the Chargers have outscored their opponents by almost 20 more points than the Chiefs have on the season. Even the Broncos have outscored their opponents by more points than the Chiefs this season. And I think that just like is a testament to how good this division actually is and how like scary the division, like how not great the Chiefs have actually looked compared to their record. I mean, that's like they're winning games by such slim margins, like almost like 5-6 points a game. They're winning games by, which is just crazy. Is their point differential just all one possession games? So
Yeah,
I mean, looking at this team, I definitely think that the Chargers have a chance at it. I do think the Chiefs will end up winning the division by a game or so, but I think that the Chargers could make a run at it for sure. And with that, we're gonna move on to our NFC, and with that,
NFC
we'll start with the
teams.
NFC East in a
NFC
division that
East.
2 weeks ago I would have said just looks a lot different than it does now. And we got Philadelphia on the top of that division right now, and Washington with that young stud and Jaden Daniels right behind them, and then two teams that are quite literally irrelevant so far this season, and the Cowboys and the Giants, especially with Dak going down.
Well, what's showing you is this: Philly's coach is coaching for his life right now. They already fired the defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator last year. They fired both of them, but they did not fire their head coach. Usually, their head coach is next. I've seen it in Cleveland. Once they fire your coordinators, you're probably next. He's coaching for his life. Dan Quinn was supposed to be a stopgap kind of person. Washington wanted Ben Johnson. They wanted Ben Johnson to take Jaden Daniels to the next level. But Dan Quinn is proving that he should be an NFL coach, and he is an NFL coach. He is coaching that team well. The defense is playing well. They figured out how to play football. Washington fans are happy to see an actual
Yeah,
quarterback in Washington. They haven't had it for a while since Kirk Cousins. They haven't felt good about any of the quarterbacks at all. So I've been talking to Washington fans. They're excited about him. And I just think all the other teams, most of their coaches are going to get fired. Brian Dable's probably his way out. And
Mike
what's his
McCarthy.
name? Mike McCarthy. He's
Yeah, I
probably
think
on his
so
way
too.
out. Most of the quarterbacks. And I just think Philly coach knows that he's on the hot seat.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni
Even
is
if they're winning, it doesn't matter in Philly.
he's coaching like his life depends on it for sure. And I think
Well,
yeah,
really quick. Um, if Nick Sirianni gets fired and the Browns move on from Kevin Stefanski will go to Philadelphia. I'm calling it right now. Just because he has the ties with Howie Roseman in the Eagles front office, he will go to Philly. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wins one there. Like, for real. I just think if the Browns fire Stefanski and Nick Sirianni's lose in the second round, I could see them saying, okay, hey, this guy's the two-time coach of the year. Let's go hire him.
yeah, and I think that Kevin Stefanski, the Browns would be foolish to move on from him. Even though the Browns are underperforming, I think that he is just a phenomenal coach and isn't working with much right now. And I think that
Um,
you're right in the way that he would be a good fit for that Philly team. But I don't see them moving on from Sirianni unless something drastic happens the rest of the season. And I do like this Philly team to end up taking out the
yeah, unless
division.
they choke.
But man, I Washington is going to be a force to be reckoned with the next few seasons. And to be honest, as a Falcons fan, as a Vikings fan, I remember the Dan Quinn era of Atlanta, and I just miss it dearly. Where Dan Quinn was, I said it when he left. I was so sad to see Dan Quinn leave, and it's been a rough go at it since Dan Quinn left in Atlanta. They have not put together a team since he was gone, and I think that's just a testament to his coaching ability. And really, looking at even Dallas this year without Dan Quinn on the defensive coordinator position, and Dan Quinn is just a phenomenal coach, and he deserves to be a head coach. He took that Atlanta team to a Super Bowl, and I think the people that were saying that it was all Kyle Shanahan and his offensive scheme can look now and say, okay, no, Dan Quinn had a major part in making that team special, and Dan Quinn deserves a job in the NFL. So I love to see what's happening in
Well,
Washington.
yeah, what's showing now it's these coaches that can hold that can be the game manager like Dan Campbell, Dan Quinn, D'Amico Ryan, and some of these coaches that don't call plays are just game managers, and it's showing that they can do it, and they're showing off their coaching abilities, and those are the teams that are winning, except for the Browns. I mean, there's reasons
Yeah,
why.
for sure. So moving on to our NFC North in a division That's kind of been one of the toughest divisions I'd say in football this year, in the NFC North, and I'd like to say, in my opinion, is the best division in football this season. Coming off a worse season last year, being one of the worst divisions in football last season, to now looking at it saying this might be the best division in football. And that Detroit Lions team, which I think many would say is the best team in football right now, they're playing the best football of anyone and look like it. Behind with a chaotic 8-2 Minnesota Vikings team, and there lie the Packers, who have been fighting to fight to be right there too at 7-3, and then a Bears team which really doesn't even look bad with a young quarterback and a team that I think honestly isn't that bad in Chicago. And so this NFC North is only a 2 game separation between the top and the third team, which seems crazy because of how good that Lions team is. Alec, how are you looking at this team, or how are you looking at this division, and who do you think is going to take it?
First, this division is looking very good. If you take out every team in this division and put them in a different division, they're probably either winning the division or second. But I think everybody's playing well. Jordan Love is playing not great, but he's playing good enough to win games. Good enough to show off that the arm inaccurate. The Vikings are doing good with their quarterback Sam Darnold. The Lions are fantastic. There's really nothing you can say about them, but they're playing it really well. Chicago is playing good. They just play hard teams sometimes. Like that blocked field goals from the Packers. It's just the Packers coaching. And I think who's gonna win it is Detroit Lions. I mean, there's nobody else to pick.
Yeah, I think this division is just tight, and I think it's really interesting to look at it. Look at the schedule ahead, and the Vikings closing out the season with Packers, and then the Lions to finish up the season, which I think will be such a battle to be watching and keeping an eye on, seeing how that plays out. To me, what's interesting is seeing how if Jared Goff can stay consistent. Because if the Jared Goff that shows up is the Jared Goff that barely beat the Texans and threw 5 picks that game, then I think the Lions have a chance to be knocked off. And I think it's the same thing in Minnesota with Sam Darnold. Is what Sam Darnold's going to show up? Is it going to be the Sam Darnold that sticks to the game plan and plays within the system, or is it the Sam Darnold that's trying to do too much and is getting carried by his defense? And so it's going to be interesting. And even the Packers, I mean, looking at their schedule, they got 3 losses this year. They got a loss to the Vikings, they got a loss to Detroit, and they have a loss in Brazil in a questionable game against the Eagles where the field conditions were pretty terrible. And so looking at, and their quarterback got hurt, and the reality is Jordan Love missed a few games this year, and yet the Packers are still right there. And so this Packers team still looks good, even though I hate the Packers. It's like, dang, they're actually a good team and a force to be reckoned with. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see as the season unfolds who ends up emerging, and I think it'll come down to the wire. I do like Detroit to finish out as much as I want to see the Minnesota take it. I think Detroit is going to hold out to win this division. And now moving on to maybe the worst division in football, the NFC South. And one that's
Well, I feel like it's a little unfair to say. If the Bucks had Mike Evans healthy in Chris Godwin, I think they'd be much better. I'm gonna say it. Baker Mayfield has finally grown up. Like he's playing grown up. He's not dealing with emotions. He's not having fits about everything. He's playing well. People can't lie. He's playing well. Atlanta, just they're hot and cold. If they can figure it out, they'll be better. And New Orleans, I think honestly, my hot take is this: if Derek Carr does not get hurt early on in the season, they'd be much better. Much better. Carolina, again, that's the only one I can't make an argument about. They're just not good. But 3 out of the 4 aren't playing
yeah,
really
and I
good.
think
The record might
Carolina's
not
won their
show.
last 2 games, including a game against the Saints. And I think that the NFC South, you're right. It I think it is the worst division in football. I think that that is true. Maybe the AFC South is worse. Um, and that could be an argument to be made, but I think the NFC South is the worst division in football. And the reality of it is that the Atlanta Falcons, they're 4-1 against their division. 4-1. That means outside of their division, they're two and
Yeah.
2-4
Mhm.
outside of the division. I think that
Yeah.
alone, looking at that, is reminiscent of
Well,
like the NFC South back in like 2017, 18 when they were just atrocious. And it was like the team that's going to win this division is going to have 9
well,
wins. And yes, I think Atlanta, when they're hot, is a really good team. And yes, when Tampa Bay is on, they're a good team. But Tampa Bay at full strength lost to Atlanta, and then they lost again to Atlanta. So it's like if the team that's at the top,
well, they've also lost some guys. Well, they lost some
yeah,
people in the secondary. They really didn't have a healthy. They didn't really have their center was had a concussion for like 3 games. People don't know that he had a concussion for 3 games, and those were the 3 games they started off
yeah,
really hot, and it showed. I mean, I listened to Bucks radio just because I work and I just listened to it for the local radio station here, and it shows, and there's like numbers to back it up, and I just think they have the injury bug. They have the classic injury bug that you can't really control year to year. And also, I would say the AFC East is the worst division because the Dolphins should be much better. The Jets should be more better. What people think. New England is going to be bad, but you always have that one
yeah.
team that's
I
always
think
bad
that's
in that
true. I
division.
think that to me, having the Bills makes that division better than the NFC South because there's no one that stacks up against them. Um, and I think that for me, Atlanta's going to win this division. And to me, the biggest reason is because
Yes,
they've
no,
already
no
beat the
way.
Bucks twice. If they hadn't already beat the Bucks twice, then I think the Bucks would have a chance at it. But because of that they already have that 2 game advantage on them, and they've already beat them twice, I think that Atlanta will end up winning it. Kirk Cousins will come to play, and they'll eventually get it figured out there in Atlanta. And now with
Yep. The NFC,
yeah, last
the
division,
NFC West.
and this one is I think the craziest division in football. And I don't even know what to
I
make of
love this
it because
division.
to me, the worst
I
team in
love it.
the division right now is winning the division. And so I don't know how to feel about it. Yeah.
What
To
the
me, that's
Cardinals?
the worst team in this division, and I'm confused.
It's 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 a fun division. It really is. It's a really fun division because you have the 49ers that should be really good, but they're injured and they can't really figure it out. You have the Seahawks that I don't know how you describe them. They have good games, they have bad games. You have LA. They have 2 insane receivers. Matthew Stafford have done dumb things to lose games, interceptions, holding the ball too much. You have the Cardinals that have they're 6-4, and they've also had really bad losses. So it's a weird division. It's fun
Yeah,
because everybody's kind of
it's
close to
so
each other.
strange. And I do to me, San Francisco will win this division. That's just how I see it. And it's I think they'll win the division.
I don't think we get
They'll get
in.
it figured out. Christian McCaffrey's healthy. I think with Christian McCaffrey healthy, and when George Kittle gets back healthy, I think they will win the division, and I think they'll finish the season and end up with like 7 losses on the year, end up 10-7, and win the division. Um, and to me, that's how it plays out in my head. To me, the second best team in this division is the Rams, really, and I think that now that Puka and Cooper Cup are healthy, we're going to see a scary offense in LA, and they're gonna be a team to watch and see how they come to play. And really, I think Sean McVay. somehow still doesn't quite get the credit he deserves as a head coach. I think that Sean McVay is one of the most brilliant coaches in the NFL, and it's overlooked that he won a Super Bowl a few years ago.
Oh
Like,
gosh,
are we just
see,
going to
stop.
overlook the fact that Sean McVay won a Super Bowl in LA like 3 years ago, and no one talks about it, and no one talks about the fact that he now has a healthy wide receiver in Cooper Cup, who was someone who was in the MVP race a couple years ago, and he has a healthy Puka Nakua, who is an absolute stud, and Kyron Williams is playing out of his mind. And now Matthew Stafford today looked just absolutely phenomenal. And I think if this team pieces it together on that offense, man, there it's going to be one of the, I think, a top 5 offense in the league. And so we'll see how it plays out this season. I do think that San Francisco will end up getting there. I think that the Cardinals will slow down. I think that Seattle's offensive line is just terrible, and their defense is not great. And so I think that they will end up losing some games because of that. Um, but man, this is just such a fun division, and
Yeah, it's fun to watch. I got to sit down and watch a couple games last week and a couple weeks ago, and it's just fun to watch because all of them are in such a weird position. The Cardinals coach needs to win. The Rams are deciding if they want to blow it up. They can. If you're Sean McVay and you say, "Hey, I'm kind of done with this. I don't I don't get me wrong. I like Matthew Stafford, but I kind of want to see if we can trade, get a first round pick, or just tank for a year, or figure a way out to get up in the top 5 picks to start with a younger quarterback." And then you have what else? You have
Seahawks,
what's the other team?
Niners.
Sorry, Cardinals, Rams,
You didn't talk
Seahawks.
about the 49ers or this.
Did I,
Yeah.
did I talk about the Niners? No, I haven't talked. Oh, the Seahawks are an interesting position because who's the Seahawks backup quarterback again? He
Oh,
was like the
you're right.
Redskins quarterback,
Yeah, he's a good quarterback.
and I thought he
I
played pretty good.
that was like a really confusing
What was his
thing
name?
when Washington traded him, and then Jaden Daniels started playing out of his mind, and it was like, okay, we don't have to look at that anymore. Yeah,
Oh, Sam Howell. Sam Howell. Sam Howell like is good. I
they
don't know
don't
why
play
they
him
don't
because
play him.
Geno Smith is getting paid
He's
so much
good.
money, and Geno
Like
Smith
a
is
lot of people like,
playing
well, he's
good
doing a lot of
football.
it's I think Seattle's in a weird position because I think or in the organization they
To,
want to go young, but the players want to go with the
to
guy
me,
that's experience. I
to
don't
me,
know. It's just a weird thing.
they
It's
need to
probably
fix the
just
offensive line. To me,
yeah,
the quarterback isn't the problem. To me, they have a star running
yeah,
back, and they have a good quarterback, and they have good wide receiver play. But that offensive line is terrible. Geno Smith has, I think, the fastest. He gets the ball out the fastest in the NFL. And Kenneth Walker is an absolute stud. And I don't see Seattle making a run until they can figure out that offensive line.
yeah, yeah. But the 49ers really quick. It's an interesting position because they're in that weird position where Brock Purdy is about to get paid. And once you pay Brock Purdy, you can't spend the money on these fun players like Christian McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk,
Yeah,
George Kittle. You know all these gadget players that can do so many things,
yeah.
and then
I think
you're staring at money. It's just like you realize when you take things away, it starts showing that they can't be really explosive when they have to
yeah, I
start
don't know.
paying
The
people.
offense to
I've
me,
seen the same
they're
thing
still
with
finding themselves. And I watched the team a couple weeks ago, not this week. They kind of struggled. No Kittle, they kind of struggled against Seattle. Um, but the week before that, with McCaffrey's first week back, all week or all game, they looked okay. But then I just saw a quarterback in
Mhm,
Brock Purdy put them on their back and win them that game. And
mhm.
looking at the numbers this year, where Jawan Jennings is now a star wide receiver. Jordan Mason is now a star running back. Like, to me, there's no matter what happens in San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan one is going to make players look good. They're going to find talent. I think Ricky Pearsall is going to be a great wide receiver. And to me, the 49ers have put themselves in a position where they can get rid of IU,
You'll be a
they
great
could get rid of
receiver.
Debo, and they're going to be okay. And I think that they will be fine. I genuinely think that the 49ers reload that's going to happen in the next year or so isn't going to take long, and we're going to see the 49ers competing again at a high level. And I think part of that is because the quarterback who's there, and I think part of it's because of the coach who's
Yeah.
there. And I don't see the 49ers stalling out too much. So as much as I think they'll still be good.
Yep. Okay.
And with that, I think we're going to move on to our MVP race. And really, who's your MVP,
My
Alec?
my MVP is I already have my MVP. This might sound crazy, but honestly, how much I killed the
Derrick
Ravens,
Henry.
I would say Derrick Henry. Has he not played out of
Yeah,
his mind? He had like 12 touchdowns or something like that. He's been like he and his yards are good. Like he likes what he's doing. He's scary when he gets to the goal line. They know how to use him. I mean, Derrick Henry or
really.
my other MVP would be Jared Goff. That would be my other one. Just because I like the way he's playing. Except for the last game, but that's different. But he played good in Jacksonville,
Yeah.
so I'm not
I mean, to
Jacksonville in
me,
Detroit.
looking at it,
First
I think
Jacksonville, so he
that
looked really good.
if the Bengals would win like 9 or 10 games this year, Joe Burrow's the guy. But because they haven't, and because I don't think they will, he's not the guy. And so to me, it turns into a two-man race between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And to me, my guy is Josh Allen. And I think we're looking at a Bills team that really doesn't have a lot of veteran presence as far as weapons. And my boy Josh is just putting him on his back. And I think he deserves an MVP, and I think he earned it, and I think he'll get it this year.
Yep.
And now moving on to college football,
Okay.
and we're just going to run through some college football quick and talking about this. To me, college football,
Oh
this has
yes.
been one of the most entertaining seasons of college football I've seen recently. And I think it's that 12-team race. And I think teams are more
I love it.
competitive because
Love
they
it.
have a chance at the playoffs. And I've loved to see it.
Yeah, the thing I really love about this is it's showing you don't need to pay your players millions of dollars. Look at Boise State with their running back and their team. They're not paying like the SEC. They're not paying their players a boatload of money. In Indiana, they're not paying their team a boatload of money, and they're undefeated. And Georgia looks not good. I've always criticized Kirby Smart. He thinks he's Nick Saban. He puts a quarterback like Carson Beckman, who puts way too much makeup on his face. Eye black. He looks like a 12-year-old girl. I don't know. He looks like, but it's just I just not been impressed with Georgia, and I mean I wouldn't be shocked if they get knocked out in the playoffs, like not be in it just because the quarterback is the issue. And I just really love the teams that are playing um, with like energy and just really doesn't don't matter what happens or who's on the field or if they're going against an SEC team or a powerhouse team and one of those teams that they're spending the quarterbacks is at least getting $5 million a year. I've
Yeah.
just been
And
super happy
really,
about this year.
it's
Been
going to be
fun to
really interesting
watch.
to see what happens in a year that's been kind of strange in seeing Oregon being dominant again and seeing them come into that Big Ten and just kind of own it, beating Ohio State, and really, I think, will claim that title as probably the number one team in the college football playoffs going into the playoffs, and I think that's going to be so fun to watch. And it's been really cool to see some of these teams just start to compete, and even the Big 12, top of the Big 12, has been super competitive with teams fighting for that playoff spot. And just it's been strange to see, but so good to see teams just all fighting for it. And I do think it's going to be interesting to be able to see like a team like Boise State
Yep.
with a guy like Ashton Genty have a chance to say, "Hey, we believe that we can beat anyone in the country, and we want a shot to do it." And they proved that by almost beating Oregon. And I think it's going to be really cool to see a playoffs where that could possibly happen. And with that, Alec, would love to see like what your thought is with the Heisman race this year, and if anyone has a chance to catch Ashton Genty Heisman race.
Tra- now, I honestly think I love the Boise State running back, but Travis Hunter. It's Travis Hunter. He does everything. He can play defense and offense. Like you ever heard the saying, he can throw it to himself? He could and score a touchdown. Like that's how good he is. Like he's playing. People don't understand. He's playing corner. He has to learn an offensive language and play defense. Like at the same time, he has to know when Shador says can, and he switches to a different play call. He has to know that while playing defense. His IQ is not talked enough. He's a smart guy. I think he deserves the
Can
Heisman. He's like
can I read off
Otani.
some numbers for you?
Not that many dudes can do it.
256 carries,
Yes.
1,893 yards, 26 touchdowns, 26 touchdowns rushing, 7.5 yards per carry. Those are Ashton Genty's numbers this year,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still got a couple games left. We're talking
Yep.
about a running back that's going to finish the year with over 2,000 yards
Yep.
rushing, over 30 yards, or over 30 touchdowns, and over 7 yards per carry on a team in Boise State who doesn't necessarily always make a bowl game and has a chance to make the college football playoffs. 9-1 against the number one team in the country, Oregon, the Oregon
Listen
Ducks.
to this
They
stat.
played
I
them
mean,
earlier this year. Let's see how the Heisman candidate fared against the potential number one team in the country. 25 carries, 192 yards rushing, 7.7 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns against the number one team in the country.
I mean, I'm, I mean, honestly, I've been so impressed with Travis Hunter. I just can't. I'm just maybe it was another year if Travis Hunter wasn't there, but man, he does a lot. I've seen him do a lot. I've seen him get an interception, and the next play he scores. People don't understand. He's getting tackled to the ground automatically, and then he has to get up, turn around, and maybe he's out for one play, gets into the game, and has to catch the ball against defenders. He plays special teams also, just a little bit, but think how crazy that is. He's playing probably 75% of the game or more. Like
Yeah, I
probably
just
more
think that
than
Ashton Genty's
any
season
other
is
player
a season we
in that
haven't seen
team.
from a running back in years, and I think that he deserves and will be a Heisman winner, and I'm excited to see it. And so we'll see who does it.
I don't think he's gonna be a Heisman winner. Maybe if this is a couple of years ago, maybe it's a couple of years ago. This is the new age. He's gonna win it. I'm sorry. I'm just too impressed with this guy. I don't think I've seen anything like this. Like like
Yeah,
Dion did this,
we'll see
and
what
he's
happens.
playing like Dion in college. He's intercepting things.
Alec, how do you, speaking of old
Okay, old
school,
school.
looking at this Alabama team who's already gotten a couple losses in SEC play. What's happening here with Alabama?
Oh, I hate it. Bama should not have hired Caleb DeVore. I'm gonna say it. They should not have hired Caleb DeVore. That was not a smart move. I I just don't think
Yeah,
that was a great move. I'm just not impressed. Maybe if they got Sarkeesian from Texas,
yeah, and I mean
because
they're
right now
looking good. They're
they're
just not
just
looking
not
like
looking
Bama.
good. They just no. I'm not expecting them to be Nick Saban Bama, but they should be like a little close to that. But the thing I was having is like this: like Nick Saban always played tight games with Texas, and he won, except for his last year. And I'll give it to him. That was his last year, and he didn't really have a that good of a quarterback. And Caleb DeVore kind of like fell on his face when he played Texas, and he didn't know what to do. He made mistakes that were like, okay, if
Yeah,
this was Nick
and
Saban
I think the
or
word
someone close to Nick Saban, this would never happen.
I think the word that comes
And
to
I
mind
just
when I think
think,
of Alabama this year is just undisciplined.
ah,
And we look at a team that like came off Nick Saban era where that team just they did things the right way, and it was the Saban way, and it was they were going to play football and they were going to play mistake free, disciplined football. And this is a team that isn't that anymore. You know?
yeah, I didn't really like the Caleb DeVore hire, and I think they should have gotten somebody different who played in the SEC or played against teams that were powerhouses every year. He played in a different division. Like I think Sarkeesian would have been a good one just because he's familiar with the SEC. It doesn't shock his boat. That's why I think Texas is doing well. I don't think Sarkeesian going against SEC schools shock him because he already did that. He was the
Yeah,
coordinator
that's fair.
for Nick Saban.
And
It
I
doesn't
think
scare him.
the SEC's
It's just
been
usual
definitely
for
a
him.
different conference this year, and one that's more open. And I think it's the first time we've seen it in a while, and it's been fun to watch for sure. And I'm really excited to see how the season finishes out.
Yeah,
Who ends up winning that SEC conference?
yeah,
I think Texas will be in that championship game, but it'll be interesting to see who they face and who ends up with it. With Georgia and Bama kind of hobbling right now, and so we'll see how the SEC shapes up and how the college football playoff really shapes up. And with that, we're we're talking a little bit more about football, and we're coming up on Thanksgiving, and we won't be able to talk about football. We probably won't be talking about football next week going into Thanksgiving. But man, Thanksgiving is home to some of our favorite football traditions. We're going to have our Thanksgiving football games with the NFL, which we're so excited for. And for everyone around, we know that everyone's playing their local Turkey Bowl games, and we're so excited to see like different Turkey Bowl games and all the highlights that'll come out of that. Alec, are you getting to participate in any Turkey Bowl games this year? The word on the street
I don't
is
know,
that you're in
but
a
maybe
draft pool
I don't know.
for a turkey bowl. So yeah, we'll see if
Oh
you
yeah,
make the
that is
cut
the
if
word I
you go
used to read.
undrafted. And so
Let's
this
see if
year
I can make it.
is my first year getting a coaching. No, no, you can't. And this is my first year
Wait, you can go
getting a chance
undrafted in
to
that?
coach a turkey bowl, and coaching a
Oh,
turkey
I'm gonna
bowl
say,
for
how do I go
YWAM
undrafted?
Orlando, where I work, and is something that they've been doing for a long time. And I get to go against Nathan Taylor, our reigning champion. And every year the reigning champ stays, and they bring in a new coach. And last year I got to be on Nathan Taylor's team as he took down Hans, who had won a few years in a row. And so excited to get my first chance at coaching and coaching football. Um, and I think I have a good eye on the talent this year, going into our draft. So I'm excited for Turkey Bowl. I'm excited to be able to do that and hopefully get to draft my younger brother as and see him get to play on my team with having Alec on my team. It'll be fun, and so excited to see all kinds of we love to hear about local football, so we're excited to participate in a
Uh,
turkey bowl. And you
one.
guys should all try and get in your own turkey bowl because turkey bowls, man, it's a good time. We love to be able to play football and have an injury because we're not in shape and haven't been playing football ever, and deciding that all of a sudden we're professional athletes one day a year. And so we're excited for it.
I need to start eating light.
Yeah, like there you go. Just fast before the game.
I need to
Pick
start
up a
eating
few
light.
miles
I
per
need to
hour
go
on
on a
your speed.
fast.
Yeah, but you're
Oh
gonna
man,
eat. You're gonna eat so
fast.
much
I'm
during that
actually
meal, and
fast
it'll
a
be
week
fun to
before
watch
the
you
game.
run after you eat a
Doesn't help
Thanksgiving
with
meal.
going to Disney. Oh my
There you go.
goodness.
Well, thank you
Well, I've
guys
been
for tuning into
practicing
the
with
Talk
somebody
Sports podcast. We'll see
beat
you next
tackles
week,
all the time.
and that's all for us.
Yep. Peace.